Phantom Sounds Production. What up, sound?
Hey, let's go juice box, y'all. If you're on the show, go ahead and hit that plus sign and we'll get started, y'all. Hello and welcome, everybody. This is the Red Room Talk. You can find us here every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm your host, Jen. The Red Room Talk is a show about love, intimacy, interpersonal relationships, different social stigmas, to erase different social stigmas, to show that in the end, no matter who you are, where you're from, that in the end, we all have commonalities when it comes to matters of the mind and heart. Nothing is off the table in the Red Room Talk. Last episode, if you missed us, that's okay. You can find us on YouTube by clicking that little link in my profile and subscribing. Last episode, we talked about the chronicles of dating, but this week we are going to get deep and discuss grieving with this week's topic, the stages of grief. Tonight in the Red Room, we have an all-star cast. We have G-Way, we have Prince Petty, we have Top Badge Really Rebecca, and Butta. Let's find out how the panel feels about the stages of grief. But before we get started, all I ask is that you keep your mind open and your language clean. I'm going to go ahead and have you guys line up, and I'll get you guys all set up. Go ahead and hit those plus signs, y'all.
Yo, G-Way and Lily. Oh, my bad. Let's make sure it's working. What up?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me? Go ahead and hit those plus signs, y'all, if y'all are on the show.
Hope everybody having a good
I'm
Saturday.
trying not to hit the replace.
Let's go.
Saturday.
You ain't no way. Oh, I was trying to make sure it was working.
Alright, it's working.
Hello, baby.
Can I?
Twin. I see you up there.
What up, twin?
Today has been a day.
All right. Here we go. He's lagging. I don't see him lagging. I think that's you, boo-boo.
I'm lagging.
I don't see you lagging.
I don't see you lagging. Hey.
Hi. Welcome, everybody, to the Red Room. I'm going to go ahead and have you guys introduce yourselves. Let's tell me a little bit about your lives, what you guys got going, shows you do. We're going to go ahead and start with the ladies first because we are polite around here, y'all. So make sure you ladies go ahead and tell us about yourselves and your lives first.
Which one? I'm sorry. Which one?
Whoever. Y'all can fight over that one.
Okay, well, hey, I'm Really Rebecca. Salute to everybody in here. I stream weekly. You can catch me live daily, either early mornings, late nights mainly, and also on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Secret Sweetheart. So be sure to come check me out for that as well too. Woo-woo.
Period. Hi, everybody. I am Butta. Okay, I usually stream, I've been trying to work on a schedule, so y'all just bear with me, but you can always find me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. But the floor is yours. Number one talent show on the app. Get into it. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all know me, you better get to know me. Is G Way No Way? He was looking at me like he didn't want to go, so I just take Well, yeah, I'm your co-host. You can catch me right here every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I can't say it right no more. It's got to be Saturday. But right here, every 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be right here. Also, anytime like from 9 to 11, other than that, I'm on, the Get Lit show on Thursdays. I'm working. We working. That's pretty much all I say around here. G-Way No Way.
I'm Prince Petty. I stream regularly during the day. I have my Sunday flow, which starts between 10:30 and 10:40, and it goes till whenever I stop. And yep, that's pretty much it. I just here, but
he be behind the scenes helping with the Red Room talk. He be helping with production, you know.
Yeah, he's trying to be all modest and shy.
I do it.
Well,
twin.
Well, I am your host, Jen and Juice. You can find me, of course, here every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the Red Room Talk. But also, you can find me late nights into early mornings. I know they're all going to kick my butt for saying that. But late nights into early mornings, sometimes afternoons. You never know. I know, sorry. But other than that, you can, I do graphic art for the Getting Lit Studios every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I also do graphics for a lot of other people. So make sure y'all tap in there. But we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm actually going to start with a quote this time. I had someone send me a quote for the show. Thank you, Cupid. But he popped it in there, so I figured it was appropriate to start off with a quote, and we'll end with one too. But grief never ends. It changes. It's a passage, not a place to stay. Grief is not a sign of weakness nor a lack of faith. It is the price of love. Thank you, Cupid. Okay. So grief is a strong, sometimes overwhelming emotion for people, regardless of whether their sadness stems from the loss of a loved one, from a terminal diagnosis, a sickness, or someone that they love either they or someone they have loved have received. They might find themselves feeling numb and removed from daily life, unable to carry on with regular duties while saddled with their sense of loss. Grief is the natural reaction to loss. Grief is both a universal and a personal experience. Individual experience of grief vary and influenced by the nature of loss. Some examples of loss include the death of a loved one, the ending of an important relationship, job loss, loss through theft, or the loss of independence through disability. There are 5 stages of grief. Although not everyone grieves in the same ways or in a specific order, these stages are general how people deal with loss. The first stage is denial. Denial is feeling numb. It is common in the early days of after bereavement. Some people at first carry on as if nothing has happened. Even if we know with our heads that someone has died, it can be hard to believe that someone important is not coming back. It is also very common to feel the presence of someone who has died, hear their voice, or even see them. My first question is, what is grief to you? What comes to your mind when you think of grief?
A process. It's definitely just a process of healing, of accepting, of going through all of those emotions and embracing them. Like, grief is just, it varies. It really varies. I guess it depends on like where you're at mentally. It can depend on how it happened. It can depend on the person that you're grieving over. Like, it's just a process.
I agree with her. It's just a process of how do you get over a loved one? How did that loved one impact your life? So that's what it could be for me.
Yeah, I agree with both of y'all on the same thing. Like, it's a process. It's a long process for some. It's a short process for some. And like you said before, some people live in denial. They just don't want to face it. They refuse to face it. Grief could be in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I agree with everybody as well too. I definitely feel like it's a process, and it's a process that you have to be mindful of when it comes to your loved one for two different reasons. Number one, because you're trying to let go of, the habitual aspects of what it is that you had with that person while they were physically here. You know what I mean? So, and then once getting past those physical aspects, then actually mentally, grasping on to what is, of that situation with it. So it's definitely a process. Various layers to it, different ways people can deal with it, but definitely a process.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, definitely grief is definitely a process. It's something that you have to go through. It's like to get through something, you got to go through the storm. You know what I'm saying? To get to that healing, you have to go through a storm, and it's a process. It's something I feel like everyone has to go through, because if you don't go through, you're stuck. You know what I'm saying? For anyone who's trying to hit that box, please stay tuned after the show, and we'll do the after the talk, Red Room talk. So y'all make sure you stay tuned. Do not leave the chat. But yeah, I can't have you press the box. But make sure you stick around. So if you are just pulling up, that's okay. We do have so much more to come. You can find us here every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Red Room talk. We just discussed what grief is to you, but now I want to dig a little deeper. Experts advise those grieving to realize that they can't control the process, there you go, and to prepare for varying stages of grief. Understanding why they're suffering can help, as can talking to others and trying to resolve issues that cause significant emotional pain, such as feeling guilty for a loved one's death. Mourning can last for months or years. Generally, pain is tempered as time passes and the bereaved adapts to life without a loved one, to the news of a terminal diagnosis, or to the realization that someone they love may have died. The second stage of grief is anger. Anger is a completely natural emotion, and very natural after someone dies. Death can seem cruel and unfair, especially when you feel someone has died before their time, or if you had plans for the future together. Also, if you're dealing with some sort of illness and they have that loss of abilities of things that you used to be able to do. It's also common to feel anger towards the person who has died, or angry at ourselves for things that we did or didn't do. What I want to know is, have you experienced grief caused by something other than death?
Yeah, I have. The grief of losing everything, like falling. Like at one point in my life, I had fell to a point where I didn't think I was gonna get back up. So I was homeless for a little while. You know what I'm saying? That was back in my young, wanting to be dumb and thinking I know the whole world to myself. Trying to live with everybody, stay at everybody, sleep on everybody's couch. I remember those days. But yeah, like it was a lot of grief. Like grief at the end of the day. That's for me.
I haven't, not that type of grief at all.
I can relate with G-Way. I don't think I went through it to that extent, but just the whole trying to get back up once you've hit rock bottom, that's definitely a grief in itself. And you can definitely go through all of the different stages of grief when you lose stuff like that, or when you feel like you haven't got to a place where you thought you were going to be at, or you know, maybe it was just a breakup and you lost everything behind a marriage, or what you thought was going to be forever, and having to rebuild that's definitely, I can relate. So yes, I've been through it.
Yeah, I've been through other griefs that haven't been like death related. I mean, there's so many different griefs that we live through as well too. Like how G-Way said, I haven't experienced that, but I've had friends that, they had to come crash me, and we all trying to, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
we all trying to, get straight. And then also as well too, for me, like, I was a teen parent, you know what I mean? So, there's a lot of different things that came with that as well too, because there are different stages of it as well, kind of like, you know, postpartum for a woman after a baby, you know, that can be a form of a grief, you know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing, like going through stuff like that too, you know, being a young parent and, you know, feeling like, you know, you wish you could do this, wish you could do that, you know, and the anguishes and the things that come from those, or health ailments as well too, because I've been through those things in life too, you know. So yeah, there's definitely different forms of it.
For sure.
Mhm.
So, it's like I took a big breath.
Jen is a deep, like, girl, breathe.
So for me, I'm gonna be honest. I've gone through some health issues in the past year, and I think losing a lot of my independence with that, and not only that, but like losing myself, like parts of myself that I know like were always there, those strengths that I thought I had, well, that I know I had, you know, and then those things, you know, when you're riddled with something that you can't control, it feels like, wow, you know, it's like it's a sense of loss because, you know, you're losing that part of yourself, but then you're angry because like, why would this happen to me? Like, why me? You know, like why? You know, so, and not only that, but no, even like when I went through my divorce, that was a loss. It was like he had died, but he was still on earth. You know what I mean? So for me, that was definitely, you know, a sense of grief too. So, I mean, I think not only that, but when you grow and, you know, grow away from friends, you know, I've had the same friends for 30 years and, you know, one of my best friends, you know, deals with addiction, and losing her as a friend, you know, after being friends since we were 6 years old, you know, to lose her, even though she's still here on this earth, but to lose her as a friend because she's no longer herself. That's something I think that I've really dealt with. It's taken me a long time because it's like mourning her death with her still being on this earth. It's definitely something that I don't wish upon anybody. But if you are just pulling up, that's okay. You have not missed much. We still have a lot more to discuss. You can find us here every Saturday on the Red Room Talk at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We just discuss what grief is to you, and if you've ever experienced grief caused by something other than death. Now, I want to know a little more specifically about your experience. Outside help is sometimes beneficial to people trying to recover and adjust to a death or diagnosis of a terminal illness or other forms of grief. The next stage of grief is bargaining. When we are in pain, it's sometimes hard to accept that there's nothing we can do to change things. Bargaining is when we start to make deals with ourselves or perhaps even with God if you're religious. We want to believe that if we act in particular ways, we will feel better. It's also common to find ourselves going over and over things that happened in the past and asking a lot of what-if questions. Wishing we could go back and change things in the hopes that things can turn out differently. Or that, like, going over wishing you could change, like, wow, if I would have done this would be different, or if I would have done this, or maybe if I did this, or maybe if I was there, you know. So I think we ask ourselves a lot of questions in this stage. So what I want to know, what do you think about the statement? It is important to grieve, and if we don't grieve for the loss of something important, we become stuck and unable to move forward. Have you ever experienced this, or someone you know experienced that moment of stuck?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
I was definitely stuck. Once I lost my grandfather, I was stuck for a little while. Just because I didn't want him to go so soon, but then I knew I had to accept that because he had already had a lot of battles, you know, with his health. But it was just like, okay, you're not here, so what am I gonna do? Okay, so now I gotta figure out, okay, what am I just gonna, okay, do I need to check on my grandmother? Okay, I need to check on my mom, for real. Okay, now what about me? And in the midst of me trying to fix everybody else and make sure that they're good, I was still just in this one spot. So I can definitely feel that I was stuck.
I was definitely stuck when I lost my grandmother, and in my mind I'm just thinking to myself, what's next? Where do I go from here? Check on this person, check on that one. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be honest, like when it comes to death part of it, I guess I can say it's a good and a bad thing for me and my family. Like, unfortunately, we've had so much loss in our family, and like, especially with some of our, like parent age elders and stuff like that, because for them, a lot of them, they had us all, they had our mother and them all older, so they were way older. So when I first was born, we were already experiencing, funerals on a regular and different things like that, or people passing away from health issues or whatever, the situation was. So for us, I'm not even gonna lie, when it comes to death, like death is one of those things that I'm not as like stuck in a process of, you know what I mean? Because if anything, like the one thing that my family had taught us, because there's so much death so young, was to allow them to move on. You know what I mean? Like allow them to move on. Like don't be so selfish in your own feelings for yourself that you don't allow them to move on into the process of what they need to be in death in the first place, so that they can accept it and move on. You know what I mean? Like don't let their spirit feel like they have to stay around for you because you're good. You know what I mean? Like God got us all, so you're good. So if anything, more of the stuck stuff for me is like when we went through the health issues in our family. We've had breast cancer very rapidly in our family, and even with my elders and stuff, a lot of men passed away from breast cancer more than the women in our family, and that was new to me. I felt like we were like the aliens, the only ones that was like men that were passing away from that more than the women, and it was usually looked at as a woman thing. So it gave me a different aspect of stuff, but it left me kind of stuck too, because like we had more men than women had it, so it was a little different for me when I got it, because we didn't know how to deal with the processes of it with women, because the men, they just kind of, just didn't say that and just kind of to themselves with it, you know what I mean? So if anything, that was where we kind of got stuck at, is when us as the women in the family actually experienced those same issues, because it was opposite for us. So, yeah.
In my situation, I mean, I kind of feel really Rebecca's coming from. Like, it was so many people dying and, getting sick, and it just, you got numb to it after a while.
Yeah.
So it's not like I didn't care.
Yeah.
But like, I was there, but I wasn't there. Because a lot of stuff, like, pertaining to death, it normally hits me, like, later on or further down the road, or a birthday or something like that. Like,
special occasions, different things.
Right. Different things trigger it. With like the actual moment, like it's just like I'm just numb. I'm there, but I'm not there because so much. But yeah, definitely been stuck before. Definitely.
So, for me, my dad, he passed away of cancer, and growing up, he was mostly the one who was in my life. My mom worked a lot, so he was the one who really, was the one at home all the time. So, growing up and having your parents up until you're adults, and then him being the age, he was only 54. And so it was just, he had got diagnosed, and they said he had 2 weeks to live. And I remember I was engaged at the time, and I remember I had set up a wedding, so I did all this like in like a week, couple weeks time. So now I'm getting married. I'm grieving before he's even gone, and I'm trying to plan this wedding. I was literally, if I tell you about high strung, I was like walking a tightrope at that point, because if anyone would have made a false move, it was over. And so he ended up passing. I ended up going home because I was so, riddled. Thank God my husband at the time, he made me go back and see my dad, because I didn't want to. I was so exhausted. I was so, I was already mourning. And by the time I got home, like the next day, I got the call to get here now. I'm telling you, it was God himself that got me there, because I was driving about 100 something miles an hour with my flashers on, and I got there. I got in a 2-hour trip. I got there in 45 minutes. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's how you're supposed to drive,
I'm telling you.
But you look
I
like
think
you
I
drive,
flew there. I don't even remember
I'm
the
from
drive, but I know
Come
I
on,
got
man.
there.
You
know, so
spaceship.
speeding ass.
so I get people who like lose their parents and like in an instant and they don't have to that think about it, but to see a man like in a 2 weeks time, watch him go from this strong man. He was a military man, he was a mechanic, he was a manly man. Like my dad had big arms, he was a big muscular man, and to see him turn into this skin and bones in just such a short time. And so then when I lost him, my ex-husband, he had never dealt with loss before. And I've dealt with a lot of loss, but never someone that close. Your father, that's half of you. So I didn't really accept it for a long time. I mean, I really just, I kind of stopped living for a while. I just was within myself, and I wasn't prepared to move on, and I had stopped drawing, and I'm a phenomenal artist. If you don't know, you can ask me later, but I draw, and I stopped drawing because I remember I had promised him to draw, and I was like, I just stopped doing all the things that I enjoyed. And it took me to finally like come to the conclusion, like, what, he wouldn't want me to stop all this. Like, he was so proud of his daughter. He was so proud of that I was an artist, and that, I love taking pictures and, all these things. So I had to really like, it took me a while, but I had to really like step outside myself and be like, I can't stop living my life because he lost his. He wouldn't want that for me. Right. And so, I had to really like look at myself and be like, okay, it's time. So, every day I just spent a little time, I always set that apart, a time a day to grieve. Okay. So like, I would just think about like, okay, we're going to take our time today. We're going to cry for a little minute, and then we're going to set it. We put it in a box every day. I put it in a box every day until some days I'd realize like, dang, I didn't have to put it in a box today. Just not that I didn't think about him. 'Cause of course I still do to this moment, but I had to like put it into its own place. You know what I mean? I couldn't let it overcome me. And so, dealing with that, and then, even the grief of losing my marriage I went through. I mean, it took me a couple years even to deal with that, dealing with being by myself, and I was a partner. I still, to this day, 7 years later, I have a side of the bed. And it's not because I miss him, but it's just because I've just got so used to sleeping on the side of the bed, And
it took years to get to where I was sleeping on.
I mean, I still sleep on one side of the bed, so, there's just things like that where you just kind of become stuck in something. And I remember even in that, I just stopped, I was out here just gallivanting. That's all I'll say. I was just out here gallivanting, and I wasn't dealing with it. I was doing everything but. There's two different types of grief, right? One where you do nothing, which is what I did with the death of my dad, and then where you're doing everything. You're out here partying. You're out here because you're trying to numb that pain, So I've been on like both ends of the spectrum, either doing nothing or doing everything to not have to feel it. And so it's like kind of you can get stuck in that either way of either doing everything or doing nothing. But if you are just pulling up, that's okay. You can find us here every Saturday on the Red Room Talk at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You haven't missed it all. We still have more to discuss. We just discuss what grief is to you, and if you've ever experienced grief caused by something other than death. Then we discuss someone being stuck in a stage of grief. But now I want to know what you can do to help. When someone you care about is grieving after a loss, it can be difficult to know what to say or do. The bereaved struggle with many intense and painful emotions, including depression, anger, guilt, and profound sadness. Often, they feel isolated and alone in their grief. Since the intense pain and difficult emotions can make people uncomfortable about offering support, you may be afraid of intruding, saying the wrong thing, or making your loved one feel worse at such a difficult time. Or maybe you think there's little you can do to make things better. That's understandable. But don't let discomfort prevent you from reaching out to someone who is grieving. The fourth stage of grief is depression. Sadness and longing are what we think most often when we think about grief. This pain can be very intense and come in waves over many months or years. Life can feel like it no longer holds any meaning, which can be very scary. So make sure that you always reach out, because it's not always that someone can reach in. So, what are the most comforting ways to show up as a friend or someone experiencing grief is what I want to know.
Be there. Be there. When I need you, be there. Especially if you're like my friend or somebody. Like if I reach out and like I'm just be there. Even if you can't talk to me, like shoot a text, something like that. Like I'm going through something, just let me know that you're there for me, even if I don't need you. You know, it's that security of knowing that somebody's there to listen if I need them to listen.
Right, check on them randomly.
Right. That random hey, something.
Just saying, just a regular hey or something. Just be like, I'm just checking. Oh, I'm thinking about you. Do you need anything? Something like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everyone up here. And if you're gonna be there, don't just be there physically, but actually really, really be there. Like,
Yeah.
and go through it. And if you have if you have the strength to actually go through the processes with them, do that. If you know that you can't handle it and you gonna break down, don't just this is not your job. I mean, let them know, like, let them know they can reach out to you, but for real, like, if you're gonna be there, be actually there and go through it with them so that they don't feel like they're walking through this alone.
Right.
Yeah, I
Not just
agree.
'cause.
I agree with what you're saying. Be there, but be there with honesty. You know what I mean? Because like everybody is going through something, even if you don't know that at that moment. So, for me, like the type of person that I am personally, I internalize more than I speak out when it comes to my personal issues. So, if I go through something like, it's normal for me not to really like be so vocal with it. So a lot of times people closer to me have to just kind of ask and, and be like, hey, are you okay? Because, like you said, everybody internal like processes things different. And for me, some people it might be, numb it out and this and that. But for me, my life, a lot of it has been kind of, selective numbing. You know what I mean? So, when it comes from me and somebody's doing that for me, then they have to kind of dig it. But if I'm having to be there for somebody else, then, two things that I've learned is, listen more than talk. And then on top of that, too, definitely be honest. Because if you know that, okay, I really want to do this, but, I gotta be, it's 3:00 and like I gotta leave, I gotta drop the kids out, go pick the kids up from school right now. Just give me a few minutes and I got you. You know what I mean? Like, be honest and don't try to overexert yourself for that person in that process, because then other parts of that comes in too, and sometimes it can be frustrating for the people trying to handle the person with grief, because they got other things going. So I've always been taught to just listen, and then be honest and let people know so that you can continue to do as you need to do, but be there for them as you need as well too.
So definitely agree with what Lou just said. He said the twist is some friends see you as the strong when they think you're okay, and I've often been the friend that's always there for everybody. But I do have, my best friend, my roommate, and it's funny because I'll be in my head and I don't even realize I'm doing it, but I'll just sit there quietly and I'm just like off thinking, and she'll be like, what's wrong? And I'll be like, I almost feel caught, like, dang, I'm trying to just keep this to myself, So it's like also having like that empathy towards someone. It's like they know sometimes even when they don't know. So letting someone know that you're going through the same thing, or that you understand, what they're going through, and not always giving advice, because sometimes I don't want your advice, okay? I just need to know that you're here.
They just want you to listen.
I don't need your advice right now, because I need to
listen sometimes.
Yeah, I need to sort through it on my own time. But it's like, even if you're there and in silence, sometimes I just need like that body heat next to me to know that someone's there when I'm ready to open up and talk about it. Because as much as I'm open, you see that little breath earlier, it's like some of the stuff's heavy for me too, even though I'm the strong one and I'm able to talk about all these subjects, sometimes it's hard for me too. And I remember actually in the first season I was talking about something, and I remember the whole time I was avoiding this question. I was waiting for it to come because I knew it was a hard question for me. And I remember I was messaging Kingy and I was like, should I just skip this question? And he's like, no, we don't skip nothing. We got this. And just that little, just that moment of encouragement from him, I was like, okay, and I just like answered it, and I didn't cry. I got through it. So it was like, it was something that was hard for me, but just having that little bit of encouragement of someone who like knows you enough to know that you got that strength in you, to kind of hear that from them, like that mirroring you, that helps. Or even just people who know you enough to know like what's wrong, like what's going on, are you okay? Even because I might not speak it. I might go days without talking about something that's bothering me, or I might not speak about it at all, but just someone watching and paying attention. Yes, watching and paying attention, and without me having to say it. And I think that's something I have trouble with, is because a lot of times, and I know it's wrong, but like I don't want to tell anybody. I feel like someone should just know. And I know that's like, I know you're not mind readers, but I feel like some people, if you know me enough, like, okay, she's online every day at this time, and she's not been on a couple days. What's going on? So having those people kind of reach out like, are you okay? And I'd be like, what the? Yes, I'm fine. Yes, I'm fine. But thank you
Don't
for
worry about me. Mind your business.
Right, mind your business. But just having someone kind of reach out sometimes too, just to notice that you're not there. That noticing your presence isn't there. So that makes you feel good that, okay, wow, I'm not just alone in this, and someone actually cares enough to know that I've been absent. But if you were just pulling up, you're late, you haven't missed everything, but we still have a little bit more to discuss. You can find us here every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or you can find my little icon in the profile says YouTube. Click that, follow, and subscribe, and you can go back and watch all the old episodes. We just discussed what grief is to you, and if you've ever experienced grief caused by something other than death. We also discussed someone being stuck in a stage of grief, what you can do to help. And what you can do to help with someone who's grieving. But now I want to be a little more personal. Sorry, guys. But there is no right or wrong way to grief. Grief does not always unfold in orderly, predictable stages. It can be an emotional roller coaster with unpredictable highs, lows, and setbacks. Everyone grieves differently, so avoid telling your loved one what they should be feeling or doing. Grief may involve extreme emotions and behaviors. Feelings of guilt, anger, despair, and fear are even common. A grieving person may yell to the heavens, obsess about death, lash out at loved ones, or cry for hours on end. They may even also act out in not so kind ways. Your loved one needs reassurance that what they feel is normal. Don't judge them or take their grief reactions personally. Don't pressure your loved one to move on or make them feel that they've been grieving too long. This can actually slow the healing process. So make sure you're just there, you're present, and let them grieve as they need to grieve. The last stage of grief is acceptance. Grief comes in waves, and it can feel like nothing will ever be right again. But gradually, most people find that pain eases, and it is possible to accept what has happened. We may never get over the death or illness or of someone precious, but we can learn to live again while keeping the memories of those who have lost close to us. I want you to explain circumstances of a grieving experience in your life and how it has affected you.
I'm gonna let ladies go first. I know. I wasn't
ready.
I'll pull out the word pineapples.
Ooh, look at the time.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay.
Just repeat it.
I feel like I need to breathe for a minute too. Okay.
Jesus.
Explain the circumstances of a grieving experience in your life and how it affected you.
Ooh.
Whew. We got plenty of time,
I don't even know how to answer.
All right, so like I said before, I was down and out. I was homeless at one point, to the point where I was working at Subway. I was literally sleeping behind the Subway in a box for like a good 2-3 weeks, before I found somewhere to sleep, for real. So to me, how it affected me in my life, because how I am now, I feel like no matter what, I'm always going to be doing better than that point. It's never going to be that bad. So I look at a lot of things in life now like, yo, dang, this is really messed up, but at least I'm not there. You know, like I could be a lot worse. So I use it as a point and a motivational thing for me at the end of the day to deal with BS and to remain positive. Right, Lou. Humble. I'm trying to humble myself. Don't say something at one time. You know, like
I know.
It's okay. If you're not ready, I can talk about mine. Oh, okay. So, I have a tattoo here. My best friend, my cousin, I lost him 6 years ago, and he was only 20-something years old. He didn't make it to his 30s, and we're talking about this was my best friend in the entire world. Anybody who I would have told anything to, he'd have been the first person I'd have told about getting the show. He'd have been the first person who I would have talked to about. He'd have probably been on here rooting me on. You couldn't walk into a room and not feel absolutely beautiful. He thought I belonged on magazines and and everything. So, you know, losing him really, like, I lost a part of myself and a little bit of my confidence, because he often was like that person who always told me I was the stuff, you know. So losing him, I lost a lot. You know, he was often my confidant, the person who I went to. He knew all my secrets, and as I was the person he went to with his. So I could say, I can honestly say that I've probably been stuck in my grief with him, because I'm still angry. I'm still angry because it seems unfair. You know, I feel like I've lost a lot of people. I've lost my best friend to addiction. I lost my dad, who, you know, is like, it's half of me. Damn, I said I wasn't gonna do that. But I lost him as my best friend too. So I felt like I've lost all my best friends. And so losing him really, you know, took don't. So losing him kind of took you know, part of me. And so I feel like I just kind of been stuck. And I actually just, the reason why I did this show is last week during the show, it was actually the 6-year anniversary of his death. And I was going to dedicate it to him, but this show was definitely dedicated to him, because he was my biggest fan. He would have really told all of y'all that I was the new Oprah. I promise you, he'd have been in here with bells on. He'd have sent me every dragon on that board. Okay, I promise you. But you know, I also, you know, thank God for having the time I did with him. I just wanted more of it, and unfortunately, I don't have any more time with him. And so I just also try to make myself thankful that he was here, that I had that time with him, because a lot of us don't get that. A lot of us don't get to experience such a beautiful person, and I got to experience having him in my life, and so I'm just thankful for that.
Yeah, I was not expecting to cry today. Lord Jesus.
I wasn't ready.
That's how I am when I lost my grandmother, because I actually woke up and found her. And it was just unexpected. I didn't know, after that, I didn't know what to do. I just lost control of myself. I was in my bedroom. This is when I first met Empress. I was in my bedroom. She would come in, you know, she'd be like, "You don't cut the lights on in here." And I'm just like, I'd rather it be dark, because that's just how I feel. I had the curtains closed. Everything was just dark. I didn't go outside. People would knock on the door. I wouldn't even go downstairs and knock on the door. It just hurt me that bad, because she raised me 29 years of my life, and for all that just to be over just like that. And till this day, I'm still grieving. And then, you know, you get the people who do, like you said, check on you and all this, and then you got those who keep asking, can I do this? Can you do this? Can you? And it just be like, don't y'all see me grieving? How am I going to take care of myself, getting myself together? And y'all keep at, So, parts of me feel guilt. I feel guilty, but then at the same time, I'm just like, maybe it was, but like you said, she was like my best friend, my support system. If it wasn't for her, I don't know where I would be at. I don't know where I would be without my grandmother. I wouldn't be. I'm going to say my government name. I wouldn't be D'Angelo without her.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Queen. Ugh.
Look, all y'all in the audience with your tissues.
Right. These allergies is acting
It's the allergies, y'all. It's just, we got a lot of pollen in this show right now because the Red Room Talk. There's a lot of pollen in here.
That's why I'm.
The spring.
Got Benadryl in the
That's
bag.
why I'm so moody sometimes.
It's springtime,
Right. I will say, okay, but
I'm sorry, y'all.
you good. I'll say that one of my hardest ones is losing people on here.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's an
definitely.
Yes.
I think the worst one for me was when Diddy passed.
Oh, yes.
Oh man,
Yeah, and so
that was
To be the next week she was supposed to be on my show and I was supposed to do her auction. And that was the first person that I was ever going to do an auction with. And I've only done one, and that was just because it was, one of my friends. But I never, like when everybody did, I didn't have any disrespect towards nobody with it. But to me, it's like, y'all can't do it like Diddy did.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think that's one of the main reasons.
I ain't being funny. I ain't, I love everybody. But
you
at the end of the day,
you can't
nobody
duplicate that.
do what Diddy did on the auction.
You can't.
So at the end of the day,
The only auction I ever did was her.
Facts.
the only reason why I did the one with my friend is because they were people that they lost from Diddy as well too. You know what I mean? Like they were
Right.
best friends of hers too. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, like to build bonds with everyone on here, and then something happens to them, and you don't even get a chance to even see them in person.
Because for me,
It hit different.
me and Diddy had just started getting to know each other. But for me, my hardest ones on here was Crow and Icy Wet.
Yeah, I see that one hurt me to my
Those
core.
hurt me real hard because I helped both of them start. I had a lot of personal time with them. You know what I mean? Like
right.
talking to them for hours and hours and hours on end, and being back and forth on pages and falling asleep on their page because I can't fall asleep.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like just the fun and all of that stuff with it. So yeah, I think even with my past of like I had told y'all, like like my family would kind of numb it out some. It was a little different with that because like people act like online is different than real life, but it's all real life. It's just online versus in person. But the real mental and emotional and spiritual and verbal, communication that you have with people, like that's still bond.
Yeah.
So
I definitely make it my business to meet everyone when I make that bond with them eventually.
Yeah, Crow was definitely a tough one for me. I remember we were just talking about this, but like he was just such a kind person. He always had like this happy face on. I would go visit him. I always used to mess with him. I'm like, boy, if you don't go put your Carmex on, and I would just mess with him because that's how we met. And he's like, man, you're so honest.
I literally have his picture on my watch, like but from like him. I was in his live and he was in my live. Like,
he was
I
just
have
a
like
kind soul.
the same with Icy and flyers that I helped her learn how to make, and different stuff, like, because she was so into that. You know what I mean? Like, she really.
I remember when she first joined the Dream Team because she started in my live. She was in my life for the longest. She's like, I'm with the Dream Team. I'm making flyers, and she loved roses. Like, she would rose my life to death till like it would glitch my phone.
Absolutely.
Like, that was the most.
I think something that a lot of
world.
people don't talk about either is like even like actors and actresses like losing people. Like, you know, I'm sorry, but when when Robin Williams passed, I don't know, like, and then when Kobe died, I mean, I felt a sense of just, it was like a depression, like to you know, like, dang, like, these are people who I grew up watching, and you know, got to see them develop as, you know, actors and famous people. I think people often think about, you know, Michael Jackson, Prince.
Michael Jackson.
Prince,
Oh my God,
yeah,
yes, Prince killed me.
You know, a lot of people don't
Prince
think that there's
killed me.
a sense of grief from losing famous people who you grew up listening to and watching, and you know, people really don't realize that you know, that's a sense of loss and grief too. You know, people who you grew up watching, like, wow. Like, I'm never going to see another movie with Robin Williams again. And he is like, to me, he was like the epitome.
I was depressed for like literally probably like half a year when Leah passed.
Oh,
like,
man.
my mom literally called me. She was like, Rebecca, where are you right now? And I was driving. And she was like, can you pull over for a second? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, I'm serious right now. Like, no bull crap. Aaliyah died. And
Yeah, my mom let me skip school. That hurt my soul. I skipped school that day.
Skip school.
and
I did not go to school that day at all. My mom understood. Like, I love that.
I remember I was at a grocery store, and I went and I pulled over at the grocery store, and I was literally shaking. And like, I turned the radio on, and they were talking about it, and I was literally like just sitting there like just shaking. And I was like, I can't believe this. Like, you know what I mean?
That one hurt.
And the hardest for me was this situation right here, the trade centers.
Oh,
That was the hardest for me.
Yeah.
I had to watch family members, like, literally, I watched 3 different family members jump from those towers that day, like, live. We all saw it live, you know what I mean? And I watched 3 family members that fell from those towers. Like, I had a lot of family that worked there in both buildings, like Tower 1 and 2. So that was I think, you know, as far as family and stuff close to me, that was the hardest, because it took me literally 10 years before I had went back to New York.
Now, for me, Whitney, Michael, Left Eye.
Left Eye.
Paul Walker, Fast and Furious. I grew up on all those movies. Paul Walker. Woo!
Paul
Yeah.
Walker, yep, but those 3 took me out because, like I said, like Wesley said, we grew up listening to their music,
Mm-hmm.
and then like Rebecca was saying, when the trade tower said, I was like, child, look,
Yeah, I was in school. That was devastating.
Oh, yeah.
too.
I had to leave the class, and I was in history class, and like, that was crazy. Like, I was in history class, and I remember him rolling the big old cart with the TV over.
Yeah, with the
Me
TV
too. And I'm
on
like,
top.
I thought it was a movie. I'm like, what are we watching?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Oh, we
what
about
the
to
heck?
watch movies.
I didn't know.
With the box TV, and then he turned the TV on. And
Yeah.
I remember just watching that, and I remember we were watching, they were saying that it was a possible attack and this and that, and then seeing the first.
Yeah.
And then,
Right.
like, seeing all of the stuff, and then seeing the second one, and then, like, they literally kept just showing it, and I was already, like, you know, like, when we see stuff like that, like, physically and emotionally, it just makes you just melt. Like, it's such, like, like, that's stuck feel. Like, it's an instant stuck, you know what I mean? Because no matter who you are, you're going to have remorse for that situation regardless. But then to actually see them, like, you know, showing people and zooming, and then to see people that you know that you like, I mean, one of those people, like, I babysitted him, and I, you know what I mean, like, carried him around and sung Twinkle Twinkle Little Star to him, and he was like, not even, I mean, some of them people weren't all just like adults, like some of them were teenagers, and so,
another death that took me out, Tracy Braxton, when Tony Braxton's sister passed.
Oh yeah,
I was through.
And I think even more than just like deaths, but like the pandemic was like a grief for me. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
our loss
Oh,
of like
God.
going outside, always that fear of, am I going to get it? Because I worked in the health field for almost 15 years. So, that was really hard, like always having to go to work. And I worked in the public where it was all old people I took care of. I took old rich folks, so every day I'm like, man, are they going to die or am I going to die? I didn't know because it was so scary. And then
when my son caught COVID, like, and I couldn't be around him, I couldn't do anything. Like, we just had to just kind of let him be and like wait. Like, to me, that was like, like it made me feel like he was gone, but he was here. You know what I mean? Because like, as bad as they scared us with the pandemic and all of the stuff that was going on, like, I'm sitting here like crying. I'm like, God, why you didn't give it to me? Like, I'm going through chemo, everything else. I ain't get it, but my son get it. Like, like, why him, me? Like, don't do nothing. Like, if you're going to take somebody, take me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to bury my son. You know what I mean? So there's a grief in that as well, too, because it's like, and it's like a present grief because it's like you're going through the same phases as if they're gone, but they're here because of how we've mentally like put the stigma on what the pandemic is,
Yeah.
So.
If you're just pulling up, you're definitely late. It's almost over, but don't fret. You can find us here every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Red Room Talk. The 5 stages, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, are often talked about as if they happen in order, moving from one stage to the other. You might often hear people say like, oh, I've moved on from denial. I think I'm entering the angry stage. But this isn't often the case. The stages are non-linear. People can experience these aspects of grief at different times, and they do not happen in a particular order. You might not experience all of these stages, and you might find feelings are quite different from different bereavements. And we just discussed what springs to mind when it comes to when it comes to grief. We also discussed your personal grief. We've also explained circumstances of a grieving experience that is not to do with death. But we are at my favorite part of the show. This is the Ask Jen Host Hot Seat question. I went to Instagram to ask our peers what they wanted to know, so viewers can send questions just for me. If you want your question to be featured on next week's episode, make sure you go to my profile, click that icon, and follow me on Instagram, and look for the Ask Jen Host Hot Seat question. This week, Mrs. wrote in and asked, is it possible to actually move on and still have feelings for a person who isn't on earth anymore? Is the new person going to be critiqued for things that they can't compare to the other person who wasn't there? So I'm assuming this is to do with a significant other, the loss of a significant other. And I'm going to tell you, with my cousin, when he passed, his partner still is very much grieving 6 years later. And I think the difference is when you lose someone in a relationship, like you break up, it's just, it's a different kind of grief, but it's like you didn't lose feelings for that person. You still very much loved them when they passed. So I think that's the difference, why it's so hard, because you didn't actually lose feelings for that person. You still very much love that person as if they're here, but they're gone. And so I think that's kind of the difference. But I feel like there has to come a point where you go through the grieving process fully before you can move on, or you should definitely go through the grieving process before you try to move on, because if not, you'll stay stuck and you'll actually like really hurt the next person, because they're never going to be able to live up to that standard of the person you lost. So I feel like definitely before you try to move on and date someone else, make sure that you have fully grieved. Not saying you're going to forget about them, because that you can never forget about someone you loved, especially a significant other, but just I feel like you have to go through that process, through the most of it, and really understand the process before you try to move on, or you could possibly ruin a great thing before it starts. So I think that's kind of my take on it. So if you're pulling up, this is the Red Room Talk. You can find us here every Saturday at 10. It is almost over. Tonight's topic was the stages of grief. You're definitely late. It's the end. But don't fret. You can find us every week on YouTube, which you can find by clicking that icon in my profile and subscribing. Every week I wrap up the show with a quote. We kind of come to this place of healing. So this is the quote for the week, and I'll let you guys go ahead and reintroduce yourselves. But this week's quote is, "We must know the pain of loss. Because if we never knew it, we would have no compassion for others, and we would become monsters of self-regard, creatures of unalloyed self-interest. The terrible pain of loss teaches humility to our prideful kind, and has the power to soften uncaring hearts and to make a better person of a good one." Dean Koontz. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys tell us about yourselves again, about your lives, what you guys have going on, your shows, and then we'll play a little song, and then we'll let anyone who has any questions or anything to say, y'all can jump in the box.
Ladies first.
We're getting you next time, okay?
No. Well, I'm Butter. Hey, everybody. I'm still working on my schedule again, but definitely can find me every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Butter's Florida Show, the hottest talent show on the app. Okay, if you can sing, dance, play water glasses, do magic tricks, I don't care. Come through, have a good time with us every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Alright, and hey, shout out to everybody in here, and I'm your girl, Really Rebecca. You can definitely catch me early mornings, late nights, but it just depends. Sometimes we be afternoon, evenings. Make sure you hit that fave button so you can catch some notifications, and also check me out Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Secret Sweethearts, a blind date show that I do each and every Thursday. So come and check it out, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I was just on, and it's definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know we had Jen. It was so much fun.
I'm your boy, Prince Petty. I stream regularly during the week. I have my Sunday flow. Once again, it starts at 10:30, between 10:30 and 10:40 until whenever I'm tired of playing music. But I'll be, around here streaming around. But if y'all get some of these questions from any of these shows coming up, they come from me. So y'all beware. But I'm Prince Petty.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes tag. Plug. Behind the scenes plug. There you go.
It's not the plug. Of course, man, y'all know me as your host, G-Way. No way y'all can catch me here every Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Saturday, I'm still working on my Saturday. I will get it right. You can also catch me on Mondays on my own live from 9 to 11. Tuesdays, Sports Block, where me and the guys get together and talk sports. We get real crazy in there, so if you don't like curse words and stuff, you might not want to come in there. Wednesdays is Shake That You Know What Wednesdays. It goes down. Thursdays, I'm on Getting Lit at 9 o'clock. Fridays is the Red Light Special. I'm doing something, like I say now, we working. If y'all don't know me, please get to know me. I'm your favorite streamer's favorite streamer, but they ain't going to tell you that. So.
Get away.
Of course, I am your host, Jen and Juice. You can find me here every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Red Room Talk. You can also find me late nights into early mornings, although they won't like that. But we also have a new show coming in about 2 weeks. It is Jenny Springer. It is gonna be the newest, funniest improv show coming to a Red Room near you. Yeah, we got Jenny Springer coming. It's going to be a good time. I think I got to have that double-sided part of me. We definitely do the deep stuff here, but we need that to show the funny part of myself, too. So, because you can't fit me in a box. So make sure y'all watch out for that. So, we got that coming to the table, and then of course I do all the graphics for the Getting Lit Studios. Excuse me, Getting Lit Studios. Every Thursday at 9 p.m. So make sure y'all tap in for your graphic needs. But other than that, I definitely have appreciated all of y'all here. Thank you for coming with the heavy breaths and the the big hearts, because
All the tears.
right. I'm glad that y'all came.
How many buckets of tears do we have? How many buckets of tears?
I think I got the hardest time out of all of y'all, and I'm like, why did I do this to myself? Okay, I did this to why me? I did it to myself. Okay. And I was like, I'm not gonna be the one. It's not gonna be me. And then here I'm like, mother trucker, y'all got quiet, so I had to like, I had to lead the pack for a minute. Okay, I'm not a Leo. Okay, I'm just a Virgo.
Y'all wrong. Y'all wrong.
I'm an empathic
All y'all
Virgo.
faces at one point had me up here like, oh no.
I was bringing real hard. But make sure y'all hit everybody in the box with a fave. All of y'all who are down at the
Quantum Sounds Production. What up, sound?